Hello and welcome back to the Green Workbench. Today we are making salsa. It's about the end of the season in the garden, so I'm trying to use what we've got left. So I picked some onions, green onions, so those need to be washed. Picked different types of tomatoes, and then I picked hot peppers, sweet peppers. No real big ones. All those have been used. Again, we're at the end of the season. And then our basil. I'm down to one cilantro plant, unfortunately. So I had to buy cilantro and had to buy lime. But we'll start by washing everything and we'll start mixing it up. Alright, I've got everything washed and ready to go. I'm not using fresh garlic either. I'm planning to grow that this winter. These onions, man, they're good. Make me cry. Got my hot peppers, my sweet peppers, and my tomatoes all rinsed and ready to go. I'm going to start with the greens, things that aren't quite as juicy as the tomatoes. So I'll cut up some cilantro and basil and peppers and start those first in the food processor with the blade. Got some cilantro, basil, green onions in there, chopping up some peppers. So I cut out the top first, pull that out, and then cut it into pieces to make it easier for the food processor. Alright, then we'll add a tomato to the mix. And we just keep doing this. We just keep cutting stuff up and throwing stuff in. Mixing it up. And after each one is full and mixed, I pour it into this bowl and then just keep mixing more loads. Everything gets poured into the same spot, so it doesn't really matter the order. I just find it helps when you start with some of the dry stuff. Here's an example of that first load. It's just very finely chopped. It's super green because I use more green ingredients. It'll get more red as I add more tomatoes as I go on. But we'll just keep grinding and food processing and mixing all these ingredients together. And as you go along, you just throw all the extra pieces into your compost bowl that will either get fed to the chickens or thrown into compost. So we don't waste anything. So everything else goes through the food processor, even the garlic, except for the lime. And so every once in a while as you're going, you want to squeeze some fresh lime into there and mix it up. And for a bowl this big, I'm going to use 2, maybe 3 full limes. Remember, the basil, and it has to be fresh basil, and then the fresh cilantro, that's really what makes it salsa in my book. Otherwise, it just tastes like a red sauce. And then the lime adds that extra zing to it. So here we are. We're still going strong. Still a little green tinted. We'll start getting more heavy on the tomatoes as we go. You want to mix all of those flavors together and let them sit. Now, of course, taste testing is a very important part of this process. That's good. I'm going for hot, and that's got a kick. That would qualify as hot. So how do you know how to get it so hot? And that's difficult because I've done it before with jalapenos, I've done it with habaneros. Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're not. So you just have to keep trying and tasting and adding more if it's not hot enough. This time I'm doing a mix, a bunch of different kinds of hot peppers, some big chilies, some Hungarian, some serranos. But anyway, that's really good. You just kind of have to experiment, start small. Don't throw them all in at once unless you're going for hot. But if you want more of a mild or medium, you're going to have to test it as you go. As you might imagine, I made quite a mess. I've done some cleanup. just cutting the juicy tomatoes, pepper seeds everywhere. So after you have your bowl filled, you want to mix it really well. You want the stuff that you put on last to mix in with the stuff you put in first. Get all those flavors mixed together. And then it's actually better if you chill it. So before you serve it, chill it in the fridge. Allow it to sit for a little bit, which allows, again, the flavors to mix together. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit while I do some dishes, and then I'm going to can it. So I will can it in pint jars in a pressure canner, and then leave some fresh out to eat today. Alright, so we're not going to do a lesson on canning, but just quickly used a canning funnel, filled it up. I got enough for 12 pints plus almost a quart to keep fresh in the fridge. So I'm going to go along the edges and make sure there's no air. And then we'll get them ready for get the lids, warm the lids up, put those on finger tight, and put them in the pressure cooker or the pressure canner. All right, we're ready to can. The one downside about canning salsa is that it cooks it. So you lose kind of that fresh taste that I love so much about just fresh, uncooked salsa. But the great thing is that you get fresh homemade salsa all winter long when you can it. So I think it's a good trade-off. It still tastes great. It just has a little bit of a cooked taste to it. Because it's tomato-based, you want to use a pressure canner, not a water bath method. So we are ready to get going, and we'll just follow the directions on your canner. And then we will see what they look like on the other side. All right, here are the cans after going through the pressurized canning process. You can see it separates the liquid from the solids, so you have to shake it up really well before you use it again. But we'll just wait for these to cool down and for the lids to pop or suck in to seal, and we'll have salsa. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time on the Green Workbench.